For years, Jeanine Pirro and her husband were seen as a powerful political couple. But behind the scenes, the marriage was unraveling fast. Public scandals, betrayal, and serious legal trouble pushed everything into the open. Rumors about infidelity, secret children, and prison time followed. What pushed Judge Jeanine Pirro to end her marriage so suddenly? Jeanine Pirro decided she couldn't take it anymore and finally filed for divorce against her husband, Albert Pirro, when their marital problems became the main topic of every headline. In 2006, during her campaign for New York Attorney General, Jeanine Pirro ended up in a deeply personal controversy that spilled into the public sphere and even became one of the biggest crises of her later political career. As she campaigned against Democrat Andrew Cuomo, the world revealed that she was being investigated after discussing a plan to secretly record her husband, Albert Pirro, amid suspicions that he was having an extramarital affair. The issue was first exposed when transcripts of conversations between Pirro and the former New York City Police Commissioner Bernard Kerik were leaked to the press. In the recordings, Pirro was talking about how she wanted to place a recording device on her husband's yacht and gather evidence of his infidelity. She expressed frustration and anger in the recording, showing just how bad the situation had become. Federal authorities were already monitoring Kerik in a different investigation, only for them to stumble on this shocking scandal. The U.S. Attorney's Office in Manhattan confirmed that the inquiry was underway to determine whether Pirro's remarks crossed the legal boundaries. But Pirro publicly denied any wrongdoing and fought back against the investigation, saying they were intruding on her private life and derailing her campaign by making her marital problems public. She also insisted that she never actually wiretapped her husband's yacht, and so discussing the idea wasn't a crime. She stated that she was simply a target. But it was clear that this controversy was the final straw that broke the camel's back on the Pirro marriage. By 2007, she and Albert got separated and never came back together until they got a divorce. But this wasn't the only time that troubles entered their marriage. In the 1990s, they were in another major scandal when it was revealed that Albert even had a child outside of their marriage. In the late 1990s, long before her later political controversies, one of the most damaging issues in Jeanine Pirro's marriage was the revelation that her husband, Albert Pirro, actually had a child outside of their marriage. The situation first came to public light during a paternity legal case, when a Florida woman claimed Albert was the father of her daughter. At first, Albert denied any involvement with the woman and said that the child wasn't his. In a shocking turn of events, a court-ordered DNA test in 1998 confirmed that he was indeed the biological father of the child. The court forced him to acknowledge the child and pay child support. For a couple who had maintained a public image as a successful legal and political partnership, knowing about Albert's infidelity was deeply humiliating, especially since the case was made public. It attracted a lot of scrutiny to her private life. Although the child from the affair was born in the early 1980s, Jeanine and the public found out together. It was revealed when she was just building her reputation as a prosecutor and public figure, so this was a big blow to her. The scandal revealed a major breach of trust in their marriage and placed Jeanine in a difficult position professionally. She was already gaining recognition for her prosecutorial work and served as Westchester County District Attorney. And when her husband's extramarital child was revealed, it complicated her public persona. But Jeanine only said that she didn't know about the child beforehand, and she continued to downplay the scandal and any knowledge about the child. After this happened, 2 years later, their marriage saw another major scandal when her then-husband found himself at the wrong side of the law and even landed in prison. In 2000, Albert Pirro's conviction for federal tax fraud and conspiracy became one of the most significant legal scandals in the long marriage between him and Jeanine Pirro, straining their personal relationship and public career. Albert, a well-known New York lawyer and real estate figure, was indicted in 1999 after a broad federal investigation revealed that he had actually improperly claimed more than $1.2 million in personal expenses as business deductions on his tax returns over nearly a decade. These deductions included lavish items such as luxury vehicles, vacation homes, artwork, and other non-business expenses that prosecutors said had no legitimate place as deductible business costs. It was an illegal attempt for him to reduce his tax burden. The trial drew extensive media attention, not only because he swindled over $1 million, but also because at that time, Jeanine was serving as the district attorney of Westchester County. She was known as one of the top law enforcement officials while her husband was committing crimes. Jeanine was never charged with any crime, but she had co-signed the couple's joint tax returns, and there were a lot of rumors about her level of awareness and involvement. Many suspected that she was secretly involved, although she constantly defended herself and said she had no idea what her husband was doing. In June 2000, a federal jury convicted Albert on multiple counts of conspiracy to defraud the United States and tax evasion, among other charges. He was sentenced to 29 months in federal prison, although his sentence was later reduced for good behavior and participation in a treatment program. He ended up serving 11 months and was released in late 2001. But there's no doubt that this case and prison stint was one of the reasons why Jeanine and Albert eventually separated in 2007 and later divorced. It really humiliated and undermined Jeanine in public and strained their marriage. Years later, long after the prison sentence and the dissolution of their marriage, Albert received a full pardon from President Donald Trump, which was one of the final acts of Trump's presidency. All of these factors built up, leading to major media scrutiny that affected Jeanine's career and made her even more fed up with their marriage. In the years surrounding Jeanine and Albert Pirro's eventual split, their personal struggles became highly public and also intertwined with both of their careers. It placed a lot of pressure on their marriage and also tarnished her reputation in the public eye. The obvious example was when Jeanine was campaigning for New York Attorney General in 2006, and it was revealed that her husband was cheating on her. She already knew about it and was even planning to spy on him and get evidence before the divorce. Even earlier, Albert's own comments and interviews added fuel to the media fire. In a 2006 interview, Albert openly criticized the toll that Jeanine's demanding career and campaigning schedule had taken on their family life. He said that he wished he had more attention at home, and it was that lack of emotional connection that caused him to start dating people outside their marriage. He had said, "Do I think that I would like to have more attention at home? Yeah. And you know, if you're not going to get attention at home, I think you really need to make some decisions about your future." His remarks that he felt neglected and that Jeanine's ambitions had hurt their personal and financial life were broadcast widely, leading to a lot of rumors and public judgment. The media focused on the couple's legal and personal affairs, like Albert's tax evasion, his child, and their conflicts. Jeanine was also highly dedicated to her career. Albert once criticized the demands of her political career, saying that it damaged their marriage and that it was hard on them both. He also stated that her career ambitions had hurt him financially and legally. Even when the couple had finally separated in 2007, he didn't have much of a reaction, only saying that this situation is exactly what it is. Eventually, as the years went by, their marriage wore out even more, and they finally decided to get a divorce. Jeanine actually stated at first that she had no plans to get a divorce, but Albert refused to rule it out. Instead, he had told reporters saying, "I'm not saying that I'm against divorce." Over the years, their demanding careers, marriage strain, and public scrutiny worsened their marriage even more, and they eventually decided to get a divorce. In the final phase of their long and rocky marriage, Jeanine and Albert Pirro moved toward an official divorce. Years of personal and public pressures eventually affected their marriage until whatever affection they had was worn out. Although the couple had been married since 1975 and shared 2 children together, Christy and Alexander, the collapse of their relationship became very public because of scandals, legal troubles, and public scrutiny. They decided to get separated in 2007, issuing a brief joint statement that asked for privacy. They stated that their priority was their 2 wonderful children, so they were trying to maintain dignity after all the years of drama and scandals. In the years before their divorce became official, the couple made major financial and property decisions. They listed their family residences for sale, including their mansion in Harrison, New York and Florida, which involved millions of dollars in combined real estate assets. These sales showed that they were dismantling their marital life. Over the next several years, they constantly negotiated over asset division, financial arrangements, and the logistics of co-parenting behind the scenes. During this process, Albert claimed that Jeanine's political career had damaged their marriage and hurt him, but many said that that was only a way for him to cover up his own issues. The specific terms of alimony and support were never publicly disclosed, but Jeanine's massive net worth, estimated at around $14 million, reveals her career success. Many were also worried about the impact of their children. Both Christy and Alexander were adults by the time they got a divorce, although all the years of scandals, drama, and conflict between their parents must have affected them. In the aftermath of the divorce, Jeanine Pirro continued to build her professional life, returning to public service in 2025 as interim U.S. Attorney for the District of Columbia. Meanwhile, Albert Pirro has kept a relatively low profile, especially after receiving a full presidential pardon from Donald Trump in 2021. But as their divorce went on, fans couldn't help but think about how they had started in the first place, especially their love story before it all went awry. For a long time, Jeanine Pirro's personal and professional life was shaped by her long marriage to Albert Pirro. Their relationship started in the corridors of law school and lasted about 4 decades before the messy divorce. The couple first met as students at Albany Law School in the early 1970s, where Albert, 4 years her senior, made a memorable impression on Jeanine. Whenever they talked about how they met, they revealed that while he was paying the bookstore bill, they would get married someday. He was right, and they got married in 1975, shortly after Jeanine's final year of law school. The couple soon set up their life together in New York. Jeanine's career moved pretty fast, and so the couple had to balance professional lives with family responsibilities. Over the next decade, they welcomed 2 children, their daughter, Christy, born in 1985, and their son, Alexander, born in 1989. The 2 children grew up immersed in the world of law and public service that surrounded their parents. Christy Pirro followed closely in her mother's footsteps, pursuing a career in the law. She became an attorney that specialized in restructuring and bankruptcy, building her expertise in prestigious legal roles. In 2017, she got married to Zach Schwartzman, and they welcomed a child in 2021, a move that Jeanine has been publicly celebrating on social media. Their son, Alexander Pirro, took a slightly different professional route. After completing his education, including studies at NYU's Stern School of Business, Alexander entered the world of finance and business. He rose to a leadership role as vice president of Macquarie Group in New York. Despite all their drama and scandals, Jeanine and Albert always focused on giving their children a stable upbringing. The strains on their marriage in later years didn't reduce Jeanine's involvement in her children's lives. She is always close to Christy and Alexander, and usually shares moments of family pride on social media. So, after all this happened, Judge Jeanine Pirro divorced her husband immediately. But aside from the marital scandals that plagued her life, she also had to deal with a lot of career controversies that gave her a lot of ups and downs. Jeanine Pirro's career controversies have followed her from local prosecutor to national media figure, and most recently, to her role as U.S. Attorney for the District of Columbia, where several high-profile prosecutorial setbacks have affected her. In 2025, her office faced public embarrassment after multiple grand juries in Washington, D.C. repeatedly declined to indict defendants in cases her prosecutors bought, including an alleged assault on an FBI agent and other federal offenses. It's very strange in the U.S. system for grand juries to refuse indictments, and these rebuffs were widely reported as indicating weak evidence or prosecutorial overreach, dealing a blow to her office's efforts to advance the Trump administration's crime crackdown in the Capitol. Even earlier in her career, Jeanine has had to deal with controversies outside of her prosecutorial work. During her time as a Fox News host, she was suspended in 2019 after inflammatory comments about Representative Ilhan Omar's use of a hijab, which attracted a lot of rumors and condemnation from both within and outside the network. Fox had to remove her from the air for a while after this. Also in 2017, she was ticketed for speeding while driving in upstate New York, and when this happened, it quickly attracted a lot of negative information. At the same time, Jeanine is also dealing with a lawsuit, although not as serious as what happened to her then-husband. Jeanine Pirro remains a named defendant in a high-stakes defamation lawsuit brought by the voting technology firm Smartmatic, which is seeking $2.7 billion in damages from Fox News and its personalities because of how the network covered false claims. The lawsuit, filed in 2021 in New York State Supreme Court, alleges that Fox and its commentators, including Pirro, Maria Bartiromo, and the late Lou Dobbs, repeated and amplified unfounded allegations that Smartmatic's election systems rigged votes, damaging the company's reputation and business prospects. Recent court filings unearthed private text messages from 2020 that have drawn particular attention. In one exchange, Pirro wrote to then-Republican National Committee Chair Ronna McDaniel, saying, "I'm the #1 watched show on news cable all weekend. I work so hard for the president and the party." These are statements that Smartmatic's legal team argues show she was acting with political motivations rather than journalistic impartiality while on the air. Critics of Jeanine contend this undermines traditional standards separating news commentary from political advocacy, a key point in the broader defamation case. Smartmatic has filed Jeanine as a bad journalist who was actively promoting and legitimizing lies in public, and there's a lot of proof like the communications and texts. There is proof that Jeanine and her colleagues were intentional about committing fraud. But at the same time Jeanine was working on her divorce, she also battled with a shocking disease and managed to keep it under the wraps until later on. Jeanine Pirro eventually revealed that she had a battle with cancer and that she was diagnosed in 2012 and treated while continuing her career on television. In a 2017 segment of Justice with Judge Jeanine, she revealed that she kept the diagnosis private for years. She had said, "In 2012, I was diagnosed with cancer. I didn't talk about it. You didn't know about it." She explained that during chemotherapy, she continued to appear on air each weekend, at times without eyebrows or eyelashes and wearing a wig as her treatment progressed, demonstrating a determination to maintain her professional responsibilities even while undergoing difficult medical care. Jeanine talked about this again in her 2018 book, Liars, Leakers, and Liberals, using her experience with cancer as part of her commentary on public health and medical policy. She remembered the physical challenges of treatment, but also the emotional toll of handling a serious illness privately while in the public eye. Her experience resonated with many viewers because it revealed a side of her life that was previously unseen. Behind the often combative commentator stood someone who had confronted a life-threatening illness with resilience and discretion. Rather than stepping back from her work, Pirro continued performing her duties without publicly acknowledging her diagnosis until much later, a choice she framed as protecting her professional image and preserving normalcy amid her health struggles. Aside from being diagnosed with cancer, Jeanine had some changes in her life and career when she left Fox News for different reasons. Jeanine Pirro leaving Fox News in 2025 marked a major turning point in her long career as a television host and media personality. After nearly 2 decades with the network, where she had become a high-profile commentator, weekend host, and later the co-host of The Five, Jeanine left the network in May 2025. That's because she was appointed as the interim U.S. Attorney for the District of Columbia by President Trump. For her, resigning from Fox was immediate and tied directly to her new federal role. This required her to step away from her regular media duties and assume one of the biggest prosecutorial positions in the nation's capital. Jeanine's tenure at Fox included hosting Justice with Judge Jeanine for many years and becoming a fixture of the network's primetime lineup. In 2022, she joined The Five, one of Fox's flagship panel shows, where she continued to be a prominent conservative voice. However, her outspoken support for former President Trump and her promotion of controversial narratives, especially surrounding the 2020 election, had placed her at the center of internal and external conflicts. Despite this, her ratings and influence within the network remained strong until her exit. The move to federal office was widely covered in the press, with Trump announcing her as interim U.S. Attorney after his first nominee for the post failed to secure support. The transition meant that Jeanine's bio was removed from Fox News roster, and The Five and other Fox platforms announced that network personalities would rotate in her seat following her departure. Once the news about her husband's infidelity and his crimes, which landed him in jail, had come out, Judge Jeanine Pirro immediately got a divorce. What do you think was the worst part of their marriage? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. So, thanks for watching this video, and we will see you in the next one.